Okay, so this is your first lesson on how to export data from an Excel spreadsheet into an SPSS software package that we will be using to plot and create tables and maybe even a regression if we get to that point. So let's start with our example file. In this case, we're going to use Griswold example or whatever. In this case, it will be your database. So let's pull it up and take a look. So I purposely marked up this database to be kind of a problematic one from format perspective and everything else. So let's take a quick look at it and see why it might be problematic. And so as we go through and we page through, first notice down here we'll have different fonts in here, different segments. If we go further down, we'll have cells that were highlighted or formatted differently. We'll have row differences here, another one there, another one here. Notice here that if you get changes in the date fields and more formats there. And this is the example that I showed you on Tuesday, in that if you have these kind of NA not applicables in these, what you're essentially doing is putting a text in with a numeric field. These software packages will default to text no matter what. And so if you don't fix this and you import it into SPSS, you'll import all of these numeric columns or these numeric cells as text, and then it will be a real problem for you to get them coded back to numeric, and so that you can manipulate them and create your variables. So inevitably what happens is you forget something about this. There's just one little cell with an NA in it, and then you get to the point of calculating, you make a bunch of changes to the database, and you get to the point of trying to manipulate the data, and it won't add, it won't subtract those variables, won't do anything else because it's coded as a text or a text field. So important things first. Let's get rid of this one. So we know that it's bad. One way that you can check and see if things are bad is sorting your data. So let's do that first. So if we go here, a range is required. So I messed that up. Let's go and select the whole field, and that's actually an important lesson. You want to select the whole field so that you're not sorting one of these columns and sorting the other. So always select the whole field. We'll go to data, sort. And in this case, I've already got them in there. Level X, the circuit, the Lexus N. I'm going to get rid of this one for the time being. And we'll just do those 4 that start the project out in that way. So after we do this, notice the text ones go to the top, and that'll tell you that, oh, I've got a problem. So one way to kind of make sure that your database is ready to go is to do some sorts. Sort on different fields that you need that will be numeric. A good one to sort on is this decision date field, because again, that'll tell you if there's problems or not. This one we know is a problem, and it doesn't need to be in the data that we're going to work with, so we're simply going to delete it and be done with it. Let's fix the font. The font starts, just click on the whole window, go into up here, Arial, and then let's hit it 10 again, and by instructing it to do it again, it now changed all those fields back to the same one. We still have some row problems here, and we've got some funny shading problems. See when it's sorted that these rows weren't sorted with the other ones, and so you'll get these kind of hangers on, and so those are things that we want to fix as well. Yeah. We've got these row problems. Let's look at that. Let's click on this. Let's go to Format, Rows, and just auto fit the row height, and it'll take care of that. Let's get rid of these colors. Go in there, and no, that's the wrong one. That's the font color. This is the actual field color, and let's put in no fill. So that got rid of all of that. Everything's good there. Oh, let's take a look at the dates. Some of these dates are off. Okay, good. Let's go through. Right click, and let's just format the cells. And we are going to do a date field. Always use the 4-digit number ones because these work the best as far as transferring in. And then let's fix the deals. All right, so numerics, text are all to the left, and numeric fields are all sorted to the right, or formatted to the right. Looks like here everything across seems to be fine. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is something that's really important, and that's monitoring the space of your database. So through the process of creating rows and everything else, inevitably you'll get weird cell entries somewhere down off the space of it and things that you won't see. Right? So what would happen if you import that is you will import all that data, but then you'll import all those rows. Those will be considered data all the way down to there, and it'll mess up your cells, mess up your variables and everything else. And so you want to make sure that you don't have any of this extraneous stuff there. And so the easiest way to do that is just go up to the last cell entry. Oh, good thing I said that, because this was an example that I just put in as an example and doesn't have anything. You don't want that one in there because it gives you an observation and you don't need it. So let's get that one deleted. And so let's select on the rest of these and then just page down and then just go, I don't know, I usually go 200-300 out and delete it, and that'll clean up everything. And so when you import it, it'll stop at row 298. Need to do the same thing for the rows as well. So if we go up here, the last field is going to be for that whistleblower, and you may have stuff out here in the hinterland. So just go out here and, I don't know, go out to C or D or something like that. Right click, delete, and now you have monitored that space or cleaned that space, and all we're going to take is from that T column all the way down to 298, and we should be good. Okay, so that being done, let's save it. File, save as. This was Griswold example. Let's do it Griswold import. Let's call it version 002. I just did a version 001, so let's just call this one that. I'm going to put it to the desktop. It's going to be an Excel workbook, and everything should be fine. From here, we're ready to start up the SPSS package and get ready to import it, and then clean up the cells, put some cell variables in, and some other things. So hang with me for just a minute. Okay, so when you open up SPSS, it'll have a set of windows that'll ask you to look at older files that you've used, but you don't really need any of that, and you won't have any of that history because you haven't imported anything yet. But after you click out and cancel, you should get to a window that looks something like this. From this screen, and it's important, I'll tell you, this is kind of the data editor, right? And there'll be a log file. That's the SPSS output file, and there'll be two different windows that we work with here. There is going to be this variable view and a data view, and we'll be using all of these things, and we'll be using these tabs. So this is new, edit, view, data. This is where we'll create variables, transform variables to recode. Analyze is when you do some of these really complicated statistical packages, but we're going to be using a lot of these graphical tools such as box plots, error bars, scatter plots is what we're going to use a lot, and we could end up doing some sequence plots as well. And then we don't really do much with the utilities, etc. But this is where everything is. And then there's some other other kind of ones underneath there, but we'll always use these. So start in this corner, click on the yellow folder, which will open your data set. It'll point you to one particular direction, but you need to go find where your Excel spreadsheet is. And so I left that on the desktop, so let's go find it. If we go to the desktop there, I think, double click it, there we go. It's going to look for SPSS files first, so s.sav is the data file. Let's see if I can find the Excel one. So if we go here, here's Griswold. That's one example. This is an import file I did a little bit before, and this is the one that we just did. So let's look at this one, Griswold import version 002. Put it in there, Griswold, everything should be good. Open, and then let's see what we get. And it's going to ask you the sheet, pull it in off the first sheet, make sure that this read variable names is on because you want that top row to come in. And click OK. It's going to run, and here for the first time you'll see the output file come up. So let me downsize this and show you. This is the log, and so when we create plots, it will go into one of these log files or viewer files, and so these are SPV files. The data files are .sav. These are .spv, and so or at least I think that's what they are. Yeah, right over here, .spv. And so you'll have two things. You may want to make sure that you save two things when you're done with SPSS at the end of the day. You want to make sure you get your output and your data. So this is an example of an output file. This is an example of a data file, the two ones up here. Okay, good. Let's go back and let's pick up the data. It did what we expected it to. So we've got Griswold, we've got the citations in here, we go out to the furthest one. The last one is Whistle, so we didn't pick up any of these kind of additional variables out here. We monitored the space properly. We go down here and we have 297. The Excel spreadsheet was 298, but the first row was the variable name, so we matched up. 297. 297 entries here, and we've got this many. Got all those columns, and it looks like we're not missing anything, so we're good. Okay. One of the first things that you want to do is go to the variable view, because this is important, and if you don't have the variable set up correctly, then it will become a problem. So let's go through and look at it. On the variable tab, you'll have the first one is the variable name. The second one is the string, the type, so it's numeric, string, a date field, a string. See, something happened with the oral date and it interpreted as a string instead of a date. And so there was a problem in that field for whatever reason. We'll probably ignore that for now, but that was something that we'll probably need to fix at some point. Numeric, so these X ones, which were the numeric fields, came in correctly. The action was the string, but the action X is the numeric. Judge is string, the judge opinion was string, and the rest of these are numeric. So generally speaking, not too bad. These are the width of the data field, so it automatically does this on the basis of how much data is in there. And I like to kind of keep these at a kind of normal intervals. So these are 20s, so maybe I'll just make sure that we'll do 30s, right? So make sure that we have 30s there. Everything else will be 11s. It's just kind of a standard format, so I'll go through and do that. This one, we'll make it up to 15 maybe. This one we'll do 11. You want to be careful with these fields because if you trim them down, you actually lose data, and so you don't want to do that. Decimal places, we don't need any decimals on any of these. Not on these, not on these. These are just ordinal measures. Don't need any of these decimal places. But out here, we've got 3 on those 2 continuous measures, and that's exactly what we want. Inner branch, let's get rid of those. Those are just ordinal entrances. Labels, we're going to put these in a minute. Values, none missing, so that's good. Or let's see, yeah, we'll be missing some, but that's whatever. Let's make sure that these kind of match up. We don't want 105, so we'll keep that at 20. Lexus site, we'll just keep that at 22. 11. Pick that one up. 15. Okay, so everything's good there. Those are measurement, so these are nominal scales. The scale ones that we have are the ordinal ones. We should actually make that ordinal, but that's okay. And everything looks to be okay. Okay. One thing I want to do is I want to put in these labels. So let's think about what we need to do here. Federal site, we won't have labels there. Let's look at this one. If we want to change the date format, let's go down here and do this. I always like that one. That's the standard one, so do that one and it'll change it. So if we go back to our data file, we'll see the decision date has these. Let's see if we can fix those dates here. Let's do date field, and let's see if we can do that. Nope, didn't work. So that is a perfect example of what happens when you have other information in with a field. So in that one, we've got we don't have the proper format, and so I lost that whole field. To fix this, then I would have to start over. I would have to go back and find what the problem was in that original database, fix it, and then re-import it. And so that's what I was talking about before. If you don't have those fields correct, or you've got extra junk in kind of numeric fields, it can ruin your day, because it may be that you needed that oral date. In this case, we probably don't, so it's not a big deal. But if you mess up the decision date field, you got to start over. If you start up with the progeny action field, you got to start over. And so you may have been working an hour on something before you figure out you got it wrong. And so it can just be a nightmare for you. So this deal with statistics is all about kind of attention to detail and making sure that everything's good before you plow ahead. Because if you don't pay attention, you may be redoing all that work that you're doing. So, all right, good lesson. Let's go back. So this one, what I'll do is I'll just make it a string again. If we do that, it'll go back. It should go back. No. We lost all that data because it was gone. So in this case, I'd have to start over. So no joy there. Let's go to the level of court. Level of court was a string, but this one's numeric. So let's go in and put some variables. The first level that we did was U.S. District Court. So let's do U.S. District Court and add it. The second level of the coding was for the U.S. Court of Appeals, and so we'll add that one. The third level was for our U.S. Supreme Court, and so we hit OK there. Circuit level, no, we don't really need anything there. Progeny action, yeah, let's do those one. First one was follow. Second one was distinguish. And one thing to keep in mind here is you want to keep these labels pretty short, because they're going to show up in plots and everything else, and so you don't know how they're going to fit in. So try to keep these labels short like we have here. Just use the ones that I'm giving you right now and should be fine. Judge, we don't need that one. Judge opinion X, however, is one that we're going to use, and we're going to use it quite frequently. So let's make sure that we have that one in. The first one was for majority. So 1 represents a judge that joined the majority opinion. So just put in majority. 2 is going to be for a concurrence. And 3 is going to be for a dissent. So let's add those. Okay. Executive party. Yeah, that one's important. Let's get that one in. Value 1 is going to be for the DNC, Democratic National Committee. Value 2 is going to be for the RNC, Republican National Committee. And good. Ordinal point, don't really need to, we may do that one later, but probably not. We don't need that. Don't have one for that one. Inner branch, this one's actually important, so let's go through and do this. Let me go back and look at my instructions and see how that one was coded. Okay, so in this one we had a value of 1 was for unified democratic control, 2 was divided government of any type, and 3 was unified Republican control. So let's start with 1. Unified DNC. Add. Value 2 is going to be for divided gov. Value 3 is going to be for and we're good. The last one that we were probably interested in, let's do whistleblowers. So in this one, let me pull that one over and see what we've got. We had a 4-part ordinal ranking there. It goes from Unified Democrat as a 1 to Unified Republican as a 4. And notice all of these variables go from liberal to conservative. Whistleblowers goes from a unified liberal panel to unified Republican panel. Inner branch goes from unified Democrat to unified Republican, right? Traditional point goes from negative values liberal to positive conservative, which should correlate with Democrat and Republican. Executive is the same thing. Ordinal was the same thing, from Democrats or liberal to conservative. So when you're putting together variables and you're putting together scales, you want them to kind of go in the same direction. Otherwise, it becomes hard for you to interpret what's going on. So let's go back to whistleblowers. The first one was unified DNC panel. The second one were instances where we had 2 Democratic appointees and 1 Republican. So that is a case where we have a RNC whistleblowers. So let's 3 is going to be for a DNC whistleblower. And 4 is going to be for RNC. Okay. Good. Having done that, we've got all of our variables in here. We've got string and numerics with the exception of the oral date, which was a problem, and a good example for this sheet because it showed you that if you get it wrong, you lose the data. And so that's why it's really important to pay attention. We've got values in for the ones that we're interested in, and we have the scalar and nominal things. Those are pretty close. We could probably change those. Let's do one real quick. That's not really a scale, that's an ordinal level measure. Executive party, that is a let's make that ordinal. These 2 are scales. Inner branch is going to be ordinal as well. Whistleblower is going to be ordinal as well. That is going to be, actually leave these as nominal. Let's just do the ones down here. So any of these variables, that was going to be an ordinal. That's going to be ordinal. Now, those 2 are continuous or scale level measures. Inner branch is going to be an ordinal, and whistleblower is going to be an ordinal as well. Okay, good. Variable view, data view. Go up here. Let's save our data. So click on the save. And now we'll go to find where you want to put it. We'll put it on the desktop. We'll do Griswold import version 002. After we're done with that, it will save it as a .sav file. That will be done. And because we're interested and we're going to be doing plots later, let's go ahead and save this statistic file. We didn't really do anything yet, but it tells you how things were imported at red files, so let's save this one just to get you into practice. Save as. Let's go to desktop, and then let's do Griswold import version 002. Let's close that one out, and you'll see over here we had our initial value, right? This one and this one. So here was the original import sheet. Here is the SAV file that we created, and this was the output.